Well, hello everyone and welcome to our February Ranching 101. We are very excited to have you with us. Before we get started, I just want to give you a few reminders. And the first is that registration is open for the 2022 Cattle Raisers Convention and Expo. This will be March 25th through 27th in Fort Worth at the Convention Center, and you can register at cattleraisers.convention.com, and you can also check out the schedule there as well for who will be speaking and things of that nature. We also will be having Ranching 101 in March, but it'll be a week earlier than normal. So put that on your calendar for March 8th at 1 p.m. And it'll be about brush and weed management with Christy Oates and Madeline Milner from NRCS. So at this time, we're going to enjoy a video from our sponsor, Lone Star Ag Credit.
My name is Jason Jones and I work for Lone Star Ag Credit. Our mission is to help rural America. It's here to help the farmers, the ranchers, the part-time farmers, the guys wanting to buy recreational land. If we do our job right, we keep the rural communities running. The farmers, the ranchers we're financing, they're putting money into local grocery stores, into the tire companies. In the big picture, we're keeping everything moving for our rural communities to keep them alive.
We would like to thank Lone Star Ag Credit for their continued support and sponsorship of Ranching 101. But without further ado, we are excited to have Jake Trout from Neogen joining us today. And just a reminder, you're welcome to ask any questions throughout this presentation. You can use the question and answer box below or the chat box, and we will get those answered. And if we don't get them answered during the live session, we will be sure that Jake gets those questions and he can email you directly. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jake.
Let me see if I can get my presentation up here. How's that look? Perfect. Hi, just want to say thank you for Texas Cattle Raisers for having me. Welcome everybody on today. I'd like to talk to you guys about genetics in action. Like Tyler said, my name is Jake Trout. I am the territory manager for the state of Texas Beef Genomics for Neogen Corporation. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Idaho, so I'm not originally from Texas. I grew up on a small commercial ranch there, was involved in 4-H and FFA all my life growing up, and wanted to continue in agriculture. So I went to a small junior college in Northeast Colorado. Could have been the most random thing I think I've ever done in my life, going that far away from home, but I was glad I did it. Was on the livestock judging team for 2 years, and I wanted to continue on that path. And so I transferred to Oklahoma State, where I was on the livestock judging again for 2 years, and studied there and finished up and got my undergrad in animal science. After that, I was fortunate enough to head back to Idaho, head home, and I got a job with the American Angus Association. I was the field rep for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho for 5 years until the opportunity to work for Neogen came up, and the territory in Texas opened. So I jumped on that opportunity and we moved to Texas. It was quite a time in my life. I just got this new job in March of 2020, and then got married in April of 2020, and then we moved to Texas in May of 2020. So it was pretty busy. But to get into what we're talking about today, talking about genomics, I'd like to give a little bit of background on Neogen and all that we do. We are the world's largest agrogenomic company. We have locations all over the globe, as you can see here. Yeah, we do a lot of different things. And as you can see, those little helixes next to each location, those are where we have genetic labs. Like I said, I'm on the beef genomics team. So I work in the genomics department, which is based out of Lincoln, Nebraska. We also have two other segments of our company, food safety, which is based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and then, or no, animal safety out of Lexington, and food safety out of Lansing, Michigan, which is also our corporate headquarters. And like I said about animal safety, these are some of the products that we provide. We do needles and syringes and vet instruments that you can find at well-known retailers across the country, or your farm store. I'm sure you've probably gone to a farm store. You might have even bought some of our syringes or needles or banders or you name it, and didn't even realize Neogen did that. But like I said, we are the world's largest agrogenomic company, and not only do we do DNA testing on cattle, but I think we do just about 30 different species. As you can see there, don't ask me how we DNA test shrimp, because honestly, I don't know. But those are some of the products, or some of the species that we do genomic testing on. But to get started here into the presentation, talking about DNA testing and see where DNA testing fits in the industry, here's a slide I've used before. I stole it from my coworker down in Florida, Clint McWaters. And I think as we go to bull sales and we decide what we want to buy or what genetics we're going to use, I hear a lot of discussion, and one that comes up a lot is I'm going to try and buy the bull that has the lowest birth weight EPD, or the best marbling, or one that's a big spread bull. And in doing so, I want to find those that fit my budget, and fit one that fit my budget that fits those traits as well. So here's something to ponder as I go on, and to ask yourself, is the most expensive bull always going to be the best one? And is the cheapest bull always going to save me money? But so you might have seen these two logos here at the top, the GGP and the Angus GS. You might have seen those in some bull sale catalogs. That means that those animals have been DNA tested through Neogen at our lab there in Lincoln. We are the main provider of genomic testing to most breed associations in the United States. There are a couple of breeds that we share testing with other companies, but for majority we do, I'd say about 75% of them. The main thing that seed stock guys do is they have a lot of different things that you test for and what they have going on, but you can see here, and I'll go in more in depth, but as you see at the bottom, there's the main thing that they want to do, and that's to improve customer confidence. And that is really and truly what they are getting at when they spend their time and money and effort to do DNA testing. Yeah, they want to make their own cattle better and manage genetic conditions and whatnot, but they want to improve the confidence of their breeders and ranchers out there who are using their genetics to keep them coming back for more, and to help them improve their own herds as well. So in terms of expected progeny differences, or EPDs, we have to understand that when an animal is first born and we've never collected birth weight, we've never collected weaning weights, the EPD is simply an average of the EPD of the sire and the dam. So you get this EPD of the sire, the EPD of the dam, and you get the EPD of the calf. So that was just an interim EPD. There's been no data turned in on those animals. And that's great and all, and that's kind of what we've come to know. But one trouble with this model is that it assumes that full siblings would have the exact same genetic value. And when we look at full siblings, like humans, dogs, cattle, that they're not all the same. We all inherit different genes from our mom and different genes from our dad. So like, for example, you look at you and your brother, you came out of the same parents, but you might be 6'2" and your brother might be 5'7", but you would think in theory that you guys would both be the same height, but that's just not always the case. So we started needing to differentiate that, and we did that with the collection of phenotypes. If you look in bull sale catalogs, you'll see examples of these phenotypes that we collect throughout the cattle industry, like birth weight, weaning weight, feet scores, tenderness, and individual feed intake data. A couple of challenges with these phenotypes is that we're collecting all this pedigree information and all this phenotypic information to try to estimate the animal's breeding values. So we're still just estimating what genes that animal carries and what genes are going to progeny. These genotypes are highly influenced by the environment. We try to take out that by doing proper contemporary grouping, but there are still genetics influenced by environment interactions that just really aren't accounted for. And it's just a guess, really. But over the last couple decades, we've been incorporating genotypes as well. And that's where we create the genomically enhanced EPD, or you might see it as a GE-EPD. And that's what testing for genetic markers within that animal. So we know that certain markers correlate to certain phenotypic expression. Like right now, we're testing for at least 50,000 of those genetic markers. And as you get deeper into it, some of the seed stock people, like if they're testing donors or bulls that are in AI studs, there's 150,000 genetic markers on those SNPs, which is short for single nucleotide polymorphism. The genomics have really evolved, and how we're doing that is using chips that we put on the sample on, as you can see here, and we put that in our machines that read those chips, and then it tells us which markers are present within that animal. It's really pretty neat how that technology works with the robotics and how it reads those chips and how accurate it is. And it's just a really neat tool to see what genes those animals are actually carrying, and then which genes they're passing on to their progeny. So when you're out there looking at bulls, why do seed stock producers genomically test their cattle? So it's a good question. For one, it leads to increased accuracy of EPDs. And I'll tell you why that's important here in a second. But it also decreases the generation interval, leading to faster genetic turnover. It allows for more accurate evaluation of traits that are difficult to measure or measure later in life. So carcass traits, we're not measuring on a bull progeny until a few years down the road. Traits like stability, we typically don't measure in a female until she's lasted in the herd for at least 6 years. And traits like residual feed intake, they're expensive or difficult to measure unless you have like a grow safe program or can get involved in that. And we can get all those through a lot quicker and earlier in life with genomics. So you can see here, when you look at a bull cell catalog, you see bull A and bull B. And we're going to say that we're looking at their birth weights, and both of them have a negative 1.7 on birth weight. And you might think those bulls were created equal, but as we talked about before with average EPDs, that's just not the case. And for calving ease and birth weight, when in fact, say bull A has been genomically tested and bull B was not, the accuracy of those bulls would be different. So like bull A is 3.9 and bull B is 0.15. I think we tend not to look at the accuracy very often in bull cell catalogs. In fact, it's not even printed most of the time. But the fact is, when we do genomic testing, we increase the accuracy, and that means that there is a less possible change from that birth weight EPD that you see in the cell catalog. So when those bulls are proven, maybe you've collected 50, 100, 200 progeny records on those animals, and you've sent it into the breed association that the accuracy level of that birth weight EPD is somewhere up above 0.9. Bull A's actual birth weight EPD will wind up somewhere between negative 5.2 and positive 1.8. Whereas bull B's actual birth weight EPD will wind up somewhere between a negative 6.8 and a positive 3.4. So you will wind up with bull B, and he has an actual birth weight EPD of 3.4 when you thought he was a calving ease bull. And when you purchased him, you thought you're not going to have any chance with calving, but that might not be the case. So higher accuracy through genomic enhancement really creates more valuable product for commercial cattlemen with less risk involved in that. Here's another example about talking about genomically enhanced EPDs. So at the bottom here, when you're buying a bull, there's the accuracy of 0.05 on a bull who hasn't been proven yet, or a yearling bull or 18-month-old bull that we typically buy. So if we run a genomic profile on him combined with the EPDs in the background, we can increase that accuracy depending on the trait and the heritability. But in general, we can increase that about 20%, which that makes that 25% accurate for a certain trait. And once again, we're talking about merging bulls here with no progeny data in their record. But consequently, if we kind of run a middle-aged bull there that might be up in an AI stud somewhere that has some progeny, has some information on him, he may be 50% accurate. But then say we run a genomic profile on him, we may only add 5% to that accuracy of a particular trait. If we get a bull that's been around for quite a long time and has a lot of progeny on file and we've got a lot of information on him, we go ahead and pull a genomic profile on him, but we're not going to really add that much to him. And you might ask yourself, why is that? It's because we've already had that information on him. It just took us a lot longer to get there than it would be with a genomic test. The important one for us in the commercial industry is that one over there, because we can buy bulls that have never sired an animal or heifers that have never had a calf, and we can actually increase our chances of getting that trait that we're looking for while increasing this accuracy prior to them ever having any calves hit the ground. A lot of people look at that and say, well, that's only 25% accurate. That means you're still 75% wrong. And there's some truth to that, but what it comes down to is the range of how far wrong is it printed in the catalog and on his papers. And usually what I say is, if I like this example, if I'm going to play the lottery and I have a chance to win a couple $1 million, do I want a 5% chance or do I want a 25% chance? At the end of the day, I'll take my chances with 25 versus 5, and that's kind of the way we look at it as we run through this. Another side of the seed stock side is just to show the variability that an animal can have, is always to think about, well, if I just breed this bull, he's a good one, he's going to have a bunch of good calves. And there's some truth to that, but at the same time, there's a lot of variability in this genetic makeup. So as we see this example for the trait CEM or calving ease maternal, all these are sired by the same Angus bull, and all these embryos have been genetically tested. And we can see that the one bull is in the top 10% of the breed, and the other one is in the bottom 98%. So even with the same sire of animals, what we do with genomics is go and find those bulls or cows or heifers that have the genetics that we want, and we're lucky enough to get what we're looking for. And there's a lot of variation even within siblings, as I discussed before. So I think it's really important as we learn and we educate ourselves about genomics to understand what genetics plus environment equals phenotype. And phenotype, as I mentioned before, I was talking about that. What I learned as phenotypes is back in the day is how good an animal looks. Well, as we talked about it in genetics and genomics, phenotypes are measurable traits, i.e. weaning weights, yearling weight, birth weight, and ribeye, and all those different traits that you have. So phenotype, you have to have the genetics and you have to have the environment to express those genes to create your phenotype. And that reduces risk and it increases efficiency for you. A good example of that is, say we're down in East Texas, we're on that good grass, and we have a cow that has a calf, the same genomics that are in an animal that will weigh the same as if it's in the desert of West Texas. That's probably going to be 2 different weaning weights on a calf that has the same exact numbers, because environments are going to play a role in that. And I think that's something we have to remember, and we need to understand that. But in all, I recommend that you buy your seed stock from a breeder who's investing in genomic technology. It helps maximize their genetic progress for both them and the commercial customer. It helps increase the value of your genetics, and because you're able to move forward that information and make those decisions and decrease risk and increase reward while you're at it. And if you're happy where you're getting your bulls at, and you like your seed stock, but they're currently not testing, have a conversation with them about it, and ask them to maybe test their bulls and see where they're at to help you make decisions and keep going there. It really can increase the value of your genetics and limit your risk as a customer. I think you'd be surprised at the amount of power that you could have going up to a seed stock breeder if you simply have that conversation with them, and they need to hear that that might be something you want, and you'll be surprised how well they are once customers start asking more demand for that and make genetic change and progress along the way. But something else I wanted to touch on here was genetic traits and defects. You'll see those in catalogs as well. I have some of the ones listed here that are some of the more common ones. There's more than this, but that are more breed specific. But like, for example, you have AM, which is curly calf disease, or CA, which is fawn calf, and OS, which is like marble bone, and NH, which is waterhead. Those are all lethal genetic defects, and some breed associations won't even let you, if they're going to be a potential carrier, some breed associations won't even let you register those animals until they've had a test. A popular one I know in the Angus world is DD, developmental duplication. It is non-lethal, but it's something to kind of keep your eye on. In the commercial setting, say you use a DD bull, the chances are that you won't ever see any calves that have anything wrong. But with that being said, you breed that bull and you keep those daughters, and they are potential carriers of DD. And so you just wouldn't want to breed those back to a DD carrier bull or DD potential bull. That it just increases your chances, but they are still really low. Oops, wrong way. Some of these are some examples of the genetic defects, like curly calf, like I said, is a lethal, and waterhead is something you definitely don't want to see. But in DD, they might have an extra limb or nose. I've seen that one out in the field a few times, but most people don't. They don't want to show those ones off when you go, if they have those. And like those are all genetic defects, but we also do trait testing as well, which is for coat color, to see which animal is going to carry a different trait for black or red or dun coat colors. But going back to what we talked about with buying an animal that you think might be what it says on paper, but he hasn't been genomically tested. I'll give you a quick example of somebody I know who recently purchased a bull. They just went off of his DNA, that not genomically enhanced, no DNA taken, and he bought the bull. Bull looks great, looks really good, and got him home. But he said he got it transferred over to him and registered in his name, and he's like, well, I want to see what the genomics say. So he sent in a DNA test, and he got the genomics back, and he was really excited about it. And lo and behold, he was decent birth weight, and probably in the top 25% for birth weight, and then maybe in the top 50% for marbling. Two traits that a lot of people look at and get excited about. And when he got the DNA test back, he was in the top 99% on birth weight and the top 99% on marbling, along with several other traits that didn't come back favorably. But it just goes to show that when you're buying those animals, you need to make sure that they are DNA tested, so the accuracy is improved, so you don't have any surprises when you buy a bull that you think is a birth weight bull, and then you end up pulling calves at them and you're wondering why. So it just pays to be that more diligent and get that information. But try to kind of keep it short and sweet for you guys. But I want to say thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I know I'm the kind of guy that I like to ask questions later and not in front of the group, but there's my cell phone number and email. Please reach out to me anytime. Love to talk to you and meet all you guys, and hopefully if you're at the Texas Cattle Raisers convention here next month, I'll be there. I'll have a booth, and please stop by and say hi. I'd love to meet you in person. But with that, I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Please feel free to send in your questions on the chat box or the Q&A box below, and we will get those read and answered for y'all. All right, it looks like one's been sent in, and it is, what new genetic testing types is your R&D program considering?
Just depends. We do work with a lot of universities to do R&D. If there's, it really depends on what kind of research and development you're wanting to do. But we're always open for that. I do get calls from universities and of like feedlot testing or contemporary group testing. You know, just we kind of cover all of that. Just like I said, it just depends on what your take is.
All right, so the next one is, what traits are typically most accurate without testing of the animal?
That's a really good question. Traits that tend to be more accurate are, I think, are the ones that are more heritable, like tenderness. I think tenderness is a really accurate one. That trait is easily more passed on. You know, like birth weight. Birth weight tends to be one of the more accurate ones. A lot of the carcass ones, like marbling, like I said, tenderness before. I would just, off the top of my head, those are the ones that I would say tend to have higher accuracies.
Okay, so Roberts is a commercial and registered Brangus operation, and he wants to know, why do you think that some SS producers don't genetic test? Even at registered sales, he sees lots of animals with no test.
Some just don't know about it, really. They're not educated, and they just don't see the value, and they see that it's just an extra cost. Like, for example, I know each breed is different, but I know the Angus Association, it's $37 a head. I think Hereford is 40 or 45, and Brangus, off the top of my head, I can't remember what that one is. But each association is different, but a lot of people see that and see it just as an extra cost, and they don't know that it will improve the accuracy and help them out, and it's their reputation on the line, and they don't even know that that it's on the line when they're producing an animal that they say is one thing, but then you get the results back and it's something else entirely.
So going off that, we've had a couple people ask, what are the costs involved and how do you charge for these tests?
So, so for seed stock, you have to go through that respective breed association that you're involved with, and then you send the test to them, they send it to us, we run it in the background, and then we give it back to the association so they can feed it through their pipeline for their algorithms and their respective breed and how they incorporate it. And so it just depends on the association. But when it comes to genetic defect testing, like a lot of club calf people, they test their calves so they know that they're going to sell, so they're free, or at least they know what they're selling or what they're getting. And we do that testing. You can send it to our lab in Lincoln, and it generally, each genetic defect is about $25 a test, but I think there is like TH, pH, And there's TA or the Waterhead one. Those are all, you can bundle those. And I think it's $250 for the bundle. But you can go to our website, neogen.com, and check it out. And if you have any questions about our website, please give me a call, and I can help you find what test you're looking for.
Okay, so there are a few people in the chat who have sent in some things. So one of them is, if crossing a registered RA bull with an RA female, is there a program at Neogen that would help of crossing a registered RA to an Angus or other breed?
Say that one more time.
Okay, you might, if you want to pull up the chat, it's the most recent question.
How to
On the bottom of your screen, there should be like a chat box. So he's asking if you're crossing a red Angus bull with a red Angus female, is there a program at Neogen that could help of crossing a registered red Angus to an Angus or other breed?
So if you're going to crossbreed, we do have a test that is for crossbred cattle. It is called Identity Beef, and that is our commercial test for those animals that with those crossbred cattle, you can't get EPDs because they're not a registered animal that you can go through the association, but you can send the DNA, and we can do tests just off the DNA for any of the, for lack of a better word, more popular breeds like Hereford, Red Angus, Simmental Angus. So if you wanted to test, if you wanted to cross a Red Angus, if I'm answering your question, please let me know. If I'm not, if I'm getting off base, let me know. But I think I understand your question. But that's it's another test that we provide. It's called Identity Beef, and it's made for crossbred cattle.
Perfect. So another question asked was, on the DMI EPD, how closely have you found that the accuracy of that tracks with what is measured in field? And does it measure what is actually consumed versus how efficiently what is consumed is converted?
I don't see that one on the panel. Can you repeat that one for me?
Yes, so I can type it in for you. That way you can read it.
That is a really good question. I would have to I'd have to do some research on that one myself. You got me there. I'd have to get back to you on that one. Sorry, I can't think of a good answer off the top of my head right now. But please get with Tyler or me, and I'd love to answer that question for you. But right now I'm coming up short. The cost spread between LD and HD test is minimal. So why buy a bull with an LD test? Was the seed stock producer just being cheap, or does he not understand the value of the HD test? That's a really good question. It could vary. They might not know the value of the HD test. They might have just wanted to get parentage in there as well, and that was part of it. And maybe that's all that association can offer that producer. But yeah, these days I would definitely go with the HD test. We all of our breeds, they're besides Angus is a 100K test. That's what we offer, and you're just getting more bang for your buck. Does the docility score affect the tenderness score? I don't know. It could, possibly with that animal, if it's not docile, they might be more adrenaline pumping through them, and they're that fight or flight mode. They might be in that fight mode, and it could affect tenderness. That's a really good question. I'll have to dig into that one more. No one's ever asked that before.
Well, that's
I've
all the
never heard that before.
questions. That's all the questions so far. So if anybody has any last questions, please feel free to send those in. I have also included the email for cattle raisers as well as Jake's email. If you have questions we didn't answer that you want to ask, feel free to send them. And if you send them our way, I'll be sure to get you in touch with him directly.
Some really good questions. Yeah, if there's no more questions, thanks for having me on here today. It was great to be here. The Texas Cattle Raisers, it is a really great organization, and it's amazing what they do for all their members and all across Texas and southwestern Oklahoma, and I'm proud to have been on here today, and you guys got to listen to me, and hopefully it was worth your time what I said, and look forward to the next one, and look forward to being at the event next month here in Fort Worth, March 25th through the 27th.
Yes, well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I know lots of people have sent in that they really enjoyed it, so I know it was well received. If you would like to rewatch this, you will be sent a YouTube link here in the next 48 hours where you can rewatch this. And don't forget to register for March Ranching 101. It'll be March 8th, which is a little earlier than normally, but that is because of our convention. And don't forget to register for our convention at cattleraisers.convention.com. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to send them to education@tscra.com. Thanks for joining us.